Chapter 2, Book Number 1, Chick, the Beginning. A great idea. One of the jobs I had on the ranch was to help to gather and move cows. Sometimes it took a few hours or a full day to move them to their different pasture. Other times we moved them so far it took 2 days. We had to wake up really early in the morning to get ready. It was dark out at that time. The stars were still in the sky. I had to dress warmly because the air was chilly at that time of day. The horse I was riding acted like he was cold too. By the time I had put the saddle on him, it was just starting to get light. It was still cold sitting in the saddle, though. Then we would go look for the cows to gather. Pete ran along beside me. We had to check in all of the bushes and behind every tree and hill to make sure the cows' babies, called calves, were not asleep there. The mother cows let out a big beller to be certain their babies followed them. The calves then answered their mom. Pete and my horse always looked at the cow or calf calling out. Once we had found all of the cows and had them in one bunch, we started pushing them toward where they needed to go. "Hut, hut, hut!" I hollered to keep them moving. Sometimes my holler scared my horse. We had to push the cows and calves all day to get them part of the way. The whole time, the cows and the calves called out to each other. With the sun bearing down on us, it got sizzling hot. There was so much dust it was hard to breathe. Sometimes sheets of rain even fell on us. When that happened, my horse hung his head to protect his face from the slap of the rain. Part of the time we rode through trees, and part of the time where it was open with no trees. Sometimes we crossed creeks, and sometimes we jumped high over grassy ditches. Sometimes we climbed a mountain. We had to lean back in the saddle to go down the other side. Sometimes we rode on flat land like a playground. At the end of the first day, we slept outside on the ground. I lay on my back and watched the shiny stars that shot across the sky like sparks from a fire. It was fun trying to count them. Even though I worried about the coyotes yip, 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 yipping in the dark, counting the stars always put me to sleep. In the morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon cooking over a campfire. The air was very crisp and cold. We had to bundle up in lots of clothes to keep warm. Breakfast outside always tasted so good. After breakfast, we caught our horses. I whispered into my horse's ear, "Please be nice to me today," while I saddled him. The second day was the same as the first. When we finally got to the end of the drive, cows, calves, horses, dogs, and riders were very tired. It was fun to see the calves run through the purple, yellow, pink, and white wildflowers that only grow in the mountains. They were scattered like glitter. On one of these cattle drives, just my brother Bruce and I were riding. Bruce and I rode horse a lot together. He was riding a great big red horse called a sorrel. The horse's name was Baldy because his whole face was white. I was riding one of my horses named Radar. He was a blue-colored horse that was much smaller than Baldy. I had to look up to see Bruce. We were moving the cows down a mountain through the pine trees. Some were black with white faces, some were white, some were red with white faces. Their movement down the road looked like a flowing river. There were ripples of red, black, and white. It was a calm, warm day. When I closed my eyes, I smelled the trees and the fresh air. The birds chirping and the shuffling sounds of the cows was all that I heard. Bruce rode right next to me. Neither of us had been talking. We were both gazing at the beautiful blue sky and listening to the steady plop, plop, plop of the cows' feet. Then he looked at me with his blue eyes and said, "You need to get a nice, pretty filly that you could break to ride. After you ride her for a while, let her have some babies." A filly is a girl horse. All I did was stare at him. I didn't even answer. I was thinking intently about what he had said. I no longer heard the cows trotting along. What a wonderful idea! It was all I thought about after that. The idea was planted in my mind, and it was growing. Even though I kept thinking of what my brother said, I knew it was an impossible act. My father had always given me horses that were born on the ranch. To buy a very special horse of my own would be like a dream to me. Such a big feat could not be done by someone so young. Little did I know what the next week would bring.